Yo, the house? Legit too quiet. Like dead silent, kind of suffocating. Christmas morning, they called it. But for me, dude, it was a day everything just went sideways. Like, seriously. It all started, how these things usually do, with something tiny, something that seemed totally innocent. A gift, a little velvet box, just chilling under the fake pine needles of our perfectly decorated tree. My wife, Emily, she unwrapped it with this dramatic gasp, her eyes all wide, and a blush just crept right up her neck. To Emily from Santa, the inscription read, etched all fancy on a delicate gold bracelet, Santa my butt. That faint metallic smell from the cheap tinsel on the tree suddenly felt like it was laughing at me. Total opposite to the expensive sparkle of that bling. She just laughed it off. Of course. Oh, it's probably some silly secret Santa from the office, or maybe Aunt Carol finally splurged. But the way her fingers shook a little when she clasped it on her wrist, the way her eyes flickered to mine, then quickly away, man, that told me everything. I've spent 20 years in mergers and acquisitions, ripping apart corporate lies, sniffing out hidden agendas. Trust me, I know when someone's got to tell. And Emily, my sweet Emily, she was giving me a masterclass in faking it. The air in the room, usually smelling all cozy with cinnamon and pine, now had this weird, unfamiliar perfume. Kinda too sweet, too exotic for our little suburban bubble. It just clung to that bracelet, a silent witness. Later that day, I was just watching her across the living room. She was chatting away with her sister, and that bracelet just caught the light. A tiny, almost invisible glint. But that was it. That was all it took. It was like a flashing light, screaming that something way more messed up than a casual office prank was going on. My brain, usually all logical and buttoned up, felt like a buzzing beehive, swarming with questions. Who the heck was Santa? And why the big secret? Was this just some quick fling? Or something way deeper, something that had been festering right under my nose? That thought was a bitter pill, leaving this weird metallic taste in my mouth. I'd always thought of myself as a guy who had things under control, a real planner. But this wasn't just about a bracelet anymore. This was about a total break, a violation of the unwritten rules of our lives. That perfect picture we painted for our friends, for our kids, for ourselves, it was just crumbling. And I was standing right in the middle of the mess, feeling the sharp edges of betrayal cutting deep. The innocent chime of the grandfather clock in the hall, just ticking away the minutes, felt like a bomb counting down. I needed answers. And I knew, with this chilling certainty, that I was going to get them. The game had just started, and Emily, bless her heart, had no idea she was even playing. Ugh, that fridge hum? Not just a lie anymore. Man, it was like this constant, low buzz, totally messing with my head, reminding me how off everything felt. Christmas? Just kind of faded into New Year's Eve, a blur of fake smiles, and Emily just getting more and more distant. She said it was a girls' night out with her college crew, a tradition I barely even remembered if it was ever a real thing. But then she stumbles in at 1:30 a.m., right? Eyes all red and puffy, smelling kind of like cheap bubbly and something else. Something sharp like fear, or maybe just a lie stuck in her throat. And OMG, the whole perfect act just shattered. She mumbled something about a rough night, some misunderstanding with a co-worker, John. John, that name just hung there, heavy and gross, like car exhaust on a super hot day, totally clinging to our place. My gut just twisted, this icy knot tightening with every single word. She totally avoided my eyes, her usual bubbly self replaced by this weird, brittle vibe. Next morning, house felt empty AF, just echoing with all the stuff we weren't saying. Those Christmas decorations, all sad and dusty now. Totally mock how empty everything felt, their bright colors just dull and lame. I sat at my home office desk, my laptop's cold metal digging into my palms, half-empty mug of stale coffee, getting that gross film on top, its bitter smell totally matching my mood. My brain was a war zone, replaying all her dodging, picking apart every little hesitant word. Emily's teary nose, her insisting John was just a friend, they were so flimsy, so obvious. But how deep did this rabbit hole even go? Was John just a problem, or the real problem? The house was quiet, except for this distant train rumble, a sad sound that just mirrored the ache in my chest, a low, constant throb. Ugh. Look, I've always been a data guy. Numbers don't lie. Feelings? Oh, they totally do. So I went with what I trusted. Cold, hard info. Over the next few days, I was all like, gotta upgrade our home security. A project I've been putting off for ages, LOL. But really, I was busy installing a bunch of tiny hidden cameras. Not just the obvious ones. Nah, little almost invisible lenses in the living room, the kitchen, even one disguised as a car charger, wired right into her SUV's AUX port. Sneaky. And a GPS tracker too, like tiny, no bigger than a thumb drive, tucked under the passenger seat. Just a silent shadow, following her every move, sending updates to my phone. That quiet click when I put the lens in felt like unlocking some crazy Pandora's box. Didn't want to open it, but now I kind of had to. First few days? Super boring, TBH. Kinda disappointing. Just normal stuff. Grocery runs, school pickups. Her usual drive to the marketing gig downtown. The data just streamed in, showing nothing but, like, totally normal suburban life. Then, boom, the pattern changed. Subtle at first, then, like, undeniable. A detour, this random parking lot I didn't even know, tucked behind some boring warehouses, in an industrial parkway out of town. It was desolate, windy, asphalt all cracked and gross. My heart was just pounding, like a crazy drum against my ribs, against the silence of my office. Was this it? Was this where the truth was hiding, right there in plain sight? The grainy footage in the car cam, activated by motion, showed nada but an empty passenger seat, just a faint reflection of a streetlight. But the GPS data? No denying it. She was there for almost an hour, twice that week, and one time for nearly 90 minutes. What the heck was she doing in an empty parking lot, miles from anything? A chill just snaked up my spine. Colder than winter outside, like a premonition of something way more sinister than just a lame affair. This wasn't just about John. This was about something else entirely. Something way more calculated. A whole web spun with, like, serious intent. Yikes! Dude, that desolate parking lot. It became my whole freaking world. Like, a super ugly monument to how totally wrong I was about everything. It wasn't just some spot on a map. It was this giant, gaping hole in my brain about Emily, a huge black mark on our supposedly perfect life. The GPS data? Man, it was like this annoying siren, just pulling me back to that isolated spot again and again. I even drove there myself. Late one blustery afternoon, wind whipping around my car, carrying this faint metallic smell of industrial junk and wet concrete. That smell now? Totally linked to betrayal. The silence was intense, almost suffocating, broken only by this distant, sad train whistle, a sound that kind of echoed the huge emptiness I felt inside. Nothing there. Just cracked asphalt, all stained and gross, some abandoned pallets leaning against a grimy wall, and these creepy skeletal shadows from empty warehouses. No cars, no people, no secret corners for whispering sweet nothings. And definitely no sign of John. This wasn't a lover's hideout. So what the heck was it? And why was my wife, the woman who'd freak out if the organic kale wasn't perfect, spending hours in such a forgotten, bleak place? Seriously, WTF? My mind was racing, like a frantic hamster on a wheel, trying to figure out how my seemingly innocent wife, the devoted mom and charming social butterfly, was doing this secret, unsettling stuff. Was she into something illegal? Some shady deal, like a side hustle gone totally rogue? The thought was absurd, almost laughable, but then those cold, hard facts from the GPS tracker just mocked all my assumptions, ripping away every comfy belief I had. I felt this chill deep in my bones, colder than the biting wind shaking my car. It was that kind of cold you get when you realize you know nothing, absolutely nothing, about the person you've shared a bed, a home, and a life with for years. The air tasted like dust and suspicion, a bitter flavor that coated my tongue, making even thought of food gross. So I decided to stake it out. Not like some hot-headed idiot, all emotional and stuff, but with this super methodical, almost attached patience, like I was some kind of hunter. Next time the GPS pinged her at the industrial park, I was already there, parked a few blocks away, my car just blending in with the sparse afternoon traffic. I brought a thermos of lukewarm coffee, a stale bagel, and some binoculars, feeling like a total character from a cheesy spy movie. The hours just dragged. Each minute felt like forever, marked only by the slow, painful sunset and the growing ache in my back. Then, just as the first streetlights flickered on, her familiar silver SUV pulled in. She didn't get out. She just sat there for almost an hour, totally motionless, just a silhouette against the fading light. My heart was pounding, like a crazy drum against my ribs, a frantic beat that felt like it was going to burst through my chest. What was she doing? Was she waiting for someone or for something to happen? Or was this some kind of weird, lonely ritual, a secret she did away from everyone? As dusk finally settled, painting the sky in bruised purples and grays, casting long, spooky shadows across the empty lot, Emily finally moved. She didn't meet anyone. No secret handoffs, no passionate makeout sessions. Instead, she pulled out her phone, and for the entire last 15 minutes, she was there. She was on a video call. Her face, lit by the screen's harsh glow, was this mask of intense focus, her lips moving silently, sometimes forming sharp, decisive words. I zoomed in with my phone camera. The image was grainy but clear enough to see her jaw, all set and hard, and this narrowed focus in her eyes. It wasn't fear or passion or regret. It was business. Cold, hard business. The screen reflected in her eyes like a tiny digital mirror, showing a side of Emily I'd literally never known. The call ended abruptly. She put the phone away and drove off, leaving me alone in the biting cold, the silence now even heavier than before. An affair? Maybe. But this was something else entirely. Something way more complex, and potentially way more dangerous than just some lame romantic drama. The game just took a super unexpected, super unsettling turn. LOL. Okay, so that video call blew my mind. Seriously. Like, totally. It wasn't some romantic drama. Nah, it was straight up business. Like Emily, my wife, the one who used to stress about matching throw pillows in which shade of beige was just right, was talking shop, looking all intense and focused. Her face on the screen, even grainy, screamed power play. What the heck was she even doing? My brain was just short-circuiting trying to figure it out, like a cheap laptop trying to run a super heavy game. The air in my car suddenly felt super heavy, like I was breathing in concrete dust and suspicion. A really gross combo. I spent the next few days totally wired. Man, couldn't sleep, couldn't focus. Just kept replaying that grainy footage, trying to catch a glimpse of anything, any clue. Who was she talking to? What kind of business was so hush-hush it needed a secret meeting spot in a creepy, abandoned industrial park? Was this some kind of side hustle gone totally rogue, like a pyramid scheme or something? Or worse, was she, like, involved in something totally shady? Something that could actually land her in hot water? My stomach was doing flips, a constant knot of dread, like I'd swallowed a rock. This whole thing was way beyond just a cheating spouse, right? This was a whole other level of messed up. Then it hit me like a ton of bricks. Seriously, I remembered Emily mentioning a new consulting gig a few months back. Super vague, always brushed it off when I asked for deets. Said it was just a small thing, helping out a friend. Friend, my butt! I mean, who does small consulting gigs in a deserted lot on a video call, looking all serious like they're closing a multi-million-dollar deal? The pieces started clicking, kinda. Emily's old college roommate, Sarah, had recently launched some tech startup, right? She'd always been super ambitious, a real go-getter, always talking about disrupting industries and making billions. Could this be related to Sarah's new venture? The thought sent a fresh wave of cold dread down my spine. It was starting to feel less like a personal betrayal and more like a calculated, corporate one. I decided to dig deeper, not just relying on the GPS and cameras anymore. Nah, time to hit the digital trenches, go full-on cyber sleuth. I started cross-referencing Emily's calendar with all those weird GPS pings. Found a pattern. Every single time she was at that creepy lot, she had a meeting blocked out, usually with some generic code like client call or offsite. Super sneaky. And then I found it. A tiny, almost invisible entry on her personal laptop calendar, buried deep in a subfolder I barely knew existed. Project Chimera Sarah. Chimera, like the mythical beast, a mashup of different animals, right? Pretty symbolic, huh? This wasn't just Sarah's startup. This was something else entirely. Something Emily was deeply, secretly involved in, something way bigger than a side gig. The bitter taste of stale coffee in my mouth suddenly felt like the taste of a much larger deception. A corporate conspiracy, maybe? What the heck was Project Chimera? And what did it have to do with Emily's secret life? And why was she meeting about it in a deserted industrial park? This whole thing was getting way more complicated than I ever imagined. My perfect suburban life? Turns out it was just a really, really good illusion. LOL. It was like I was living in a Netflix show, but I was a poor schmuck who didn't get the script. Project Chimera. Man, that name just kept buzzing in my head, like a really annoying fly that just won't quit. Sarah, Emily, what the heck were they cooking up in that shady industrial park? My gut was screaming that this wasn't just some lame startup trying to make a quick buck. It felt off, like seriously off in a super creepy way. The next few days were a blur of caffeine and screen glow, fueled by way too much energy drink. I was basically living online, like a total digital zombie, digging into everything I could find about Sarah's company. Turns out it was called Nexus Innovations. Sounded all fancy and legit, right? Like something out of a Silicon Valley show. But the vibe was weird, super secretive. Not much public info, which for a tech startup is kind of SUS, you know? Usually, these new tech companies are all over social media, hyping stuff up, doing TikToks, trying to get investors wired. These guys? Crickets. Total radio silence online, which is a massive red flag in this day and age. I started cross-referencing Nexus Innovations with Project Chimera. Nothing direct. Like, zero mentions anywhere. It was like Chimera was this ghost project, totally off the books, wiped from the internet. That just made me more wired, you know? Why the extreme secrecy? What were they hiding that was so hush-hush? The air in my office felt thick with unspoken questions, like I was trying to breathe through a really dusty old blanket, suffocating on the unknown. I could almost taste a metallic tang of something hidden, something dangerous, like a secret that was about to explode. Then it clicked, like a huge light bulb moment. I remembered something Emily had casually dropped a while back, something about Sarah being super into AI ethics and data privacy. At the time, I just nodded, thinking, cool, whatever, like it was just some boring corporate jargon. But now, it totally clicked. AI, data, chimera, a mythical beast, a mashup of different animals. What if Chimera wasn't just a project name, but like a description of what they were building? What if they were mashing up different kinds of data, like your online habits, your social media posts, your purchase history, even your medical records, with different AI models, in some kind of wild, totally unregulated way? The thought sent a shiver down my spine, colder than any winter wind. Like, what if they were building an AI that could literally become you or someone else? I dove even deeper, using some old tricks from my finance days, digging into obscure shell corporations and weird, barely public patent filings. And then, boom, I found it. A patent application filed by Nexus Innovations, but under a super generic corporate name to hide their tracks, for something called a cognitive synthesis engine. My jaw dropped. Basically, it was AI designed to mimic human thought patterns, to predict behavior with crazy accuracy, even to generate realistic human-like interactions. Like, it could write emails, make phone calls, even create deepfake videos that were totally indistinguishable from real people. This wasn't just some data privacy thing, or a simple AI chatbot. This was, like, next-level digital manipulation, a tool that could literally control narratives and influence people without them even knowing. And the lead inventor listed on the patent? Not Sarah. It was John the colleague, Emily supposedly had a misunderstanding with on New Year's Eve. My blood ran cold, colder than ice. This wasn't just about an affair or even a corporate secret. This was about something way bigger, something that could mess with people's lives on a massive scale, destroy reputations, even swing elections. And Emily was right in the middle of it, knee-deep in this digital swamp. What the heck was she involved in? And how deep did this rabbit hole go? This wasn't just a corporate betrayal. It was starting to feel like a digital weapon, and I was somehow caught in its crosshairs. WTF? Okay, so John, the colleague, the misunderstanding. Turns out that dude ain't just some random fling for Emily, some office hookup. Nah, he's the inventor of this insane cognitive synthesis engine. My brain just kind of broke when I saw that patent, like a total blue screen of death. This wasn't just about Emily messing around on the side, having a lame affair. This was about her being tied up with a guy who's literally building some kind of crazy AI that can fake being a human. Like, full-on digital doppelganger stuff. WTF. The air in my office felt supercharged, like right before a huge lightning storm, buzzing with this weird, electric tension that made my hair stand on end. I spent the next few days in a total daze, man. My head was spinning, like I'd been on a crazy roller coaster for days. Emily, my wife, the mother of my kids, involved in something this messed up? It felt like I was watching a movie, but I was actually in it, and it was a horror flick, the kind where you know something awful is going to happen but can't look away. The more I dug into this cognitive synthesis engine, the more my stomach dropped, like I'd swallowed a lead weight. It wasn't just predicting what people would do or writing basic emails. Nah, this thing could generate entire conversations, mimic voices with perfect pitch, even create deepfake videos that were totally indistinguishable from real people. Seriously, think about it. An AI that could literally become anyone. Your boss, your friend, your kid, even you. A digital ghost, walking around the machine, messing with lives, whispering lies, sowing chaos. It was chilling, like the cold touch of a dead hand on your shoulder, making you jump even when you're alone. Then the real twist hit me, like a digital punch to the gut that knocked the wind right out of me. I was sifting through some of John's old research papers, kind of buried deep in obscure academic journals, and I found a whole section about persona replication and digital doppelgangers. That's what Project Chimera was. Not just about manipulating people's opinions or making them buy stuff. Nah, this was about replacing them. Creating a perfect digital twin that could interact, influence, maybe even totally ruin someone's life, their career, their relationships, all without the real person even knowing what hit him. My hand started shaking so bad, I almost dropped my coffee. Who would even want to build something like that? And why? What kind of sick mind comes up with this stuff? The faint word of my computer fan suddenly sounded like a sinister laugh, mocking my naivety. I started looking at everything differently after that. Every text message from Emily, every social media post she made, every casual comment she threw my way. Was it really Emily? Or was it Chimera? The thought was insane, right? Like, totally bonkers. But the tech was there. I'd seen the patent. The motive? Still murky, like trying to see through thick fog. But the implications? Massive. Could this AI be used to ruin reputations, making people look like total jerks or criminals? To manipulate markets, crashing stocks, or making fortunes? To swing elections, making people vote for someone they'd never pick? Or worse, to mess with families, to slowly replace someone you love with a digital puppet, a perfect imposter? The dry taste of anxiety was constant in my mouth, like I'd been chewing on sand for days. Then a tiny detail, a weird little glitch in one of Emily's recent texts to me, flashed in my mind. It was a weirdly formal phrase, something she never used in casual conversation, like, per our previous discussion. Just a few words, but they stuck out like a sore thumb, totally out of place. A glitch in the matrix? Or a subtle sign that something wasn't right. I pulled up her recent social media activity, scrolling through her posts, looking for anything else. Everything looked normal. Too normal. Like, perfectly curated, almost robotic. And then I saw it. A comment on one of her recent posts. from an old friend of ours, someone I hadn't seen or heard from in years, like since college. The comment was oddly specific, mentioning a shared memory that only I would know about, a super inside joke from way back. My blood ran cold. Was that really my old friend reaching out after all this time? Or was it just a digital ghost? Testing the waters, learning the ropes, trying to build a profile? How much of what we see online is even real anymore? And if they can fake conversations, can they fake people? The screen reflected my own distorted, panicked face. This wasn't just about Emily and John. This was about a whole new kind of war, a digital one. And I was just starting to see the battlefield and how totally unprepared I was. That comment from my old friend on Emily's post. Dude, it just kept gnawing at me like a tiny, annoying bug in my brain. It was so specific. So me, like only someone who really knew me way back when would even remember that random inside joke. But the vibe? Totally off. The paranoia was real now, man. Every single interaction, every text from Emily, every email from work, even the random DMs I got, they all felt suspect. Is it really them or is it chimera? The idea of a digital doppelganger, a perfect fake version of someone you know, just chilling online, messing with stuff? Terrifying. I felt super isolated, like I was stuck in this weird echo chamber, just me and my own freaking thoughts. The air around me felt thick with unspoken questions, and I could almost hear a faint, almost imperceptible static sound, like a bad phone connection, whenever I thought about it too much. Am I losing my mind? Seriously, how many other people are walking around, totally clueless, while digital shadows of their friends and family are out there, messing with their lives? It's a total mind bender. I mean, if they can fake conversations, can they fake people? I decided to test it. I dug up an old, super obscure email address from my college buddy, Mark, the one who supposedly commented on Emily's post. It was an address we used for, like, D&D campaigns back in the day. Totally off the grid. I shot him a quick, casual email, mentioning that specific inside joke, adding a tiny, almost unnoticeable detail that only the real Mark would pick up on. The reply came back, like, instantly, too fast. And the response? It was perfect, like, too perfect. It hit all the right notes, referenced a joke, sounded exactly like Mark. But that tiny detail I'd slipped in? It was acknowledged, but subtly wrong. Just a tiny, almost imperceptible shift in context, like a word was swapped out or the timing was off. My blood ran cold. It was like looking at a reflection in a broken mirror. It looked like Mark. It sounded like Mark, but something was fundamentally distorted. This wasn't Mark. This was chimera, a digital ghost, actively engaging, learning, becoming. My hands were shaking, a cold sweat on my palms as I typed out a fake, casual reply, trying to act normal. This AI wasn't just observing or mimicking. It was actively engaging with people, building relationships, weaving itself into the fabric of their lives. And then, the ultimate gut punch. I scrolled down the email thread, and at the bottom, there was a tiny, almost hidden signature. Not Mark's usual one. It was a generic link to a professional networking site, and when I clicked it, it led to a profile for a new AI-powered consulting firm. And guess who was listed as a key advisor? John. And then a small, subtle mention of their pilot program, which involves strategic digital engagement with key industry figures. My industry. My network. This wasn't just about Emily's affair or some corporate secret. This was about my life, my career, my reputation. They weren't just building a digital weapon. They were aiming it right at me. And I had no idea why. Okay, so that email from Mark and that link to John's creepy AI firm with their strategic digital engagement pilot program. Dude, my jaw was on the floor. Like, literally. This wasn't just some random drama anymore. This was about me, my life, my career, my whole freaking network. They weren't just building a digital weapon. They were aiming it right at me. Why? What did I ever do to these jerks? My blood was boiling, but also like ice cold at the same time. It was such a mind screw. The air in my office felt super thin, like I couldn't get enough oxygen, and I could almost smell the ozone from all the circuits in my brain frying. How do you even fight something that isn't real, man? Like, how do you punch a ghost? This chimera thing, it was everywhere and nowhere. It could be anyone, talking to anyone, messing with anything. My trust levels? 0. My paranoia? Off the charts. Every notification on my phone, every email ding, every little social media update felt like a potential attack. Was that text from my boss really my boss? Or was it a chimera bot trying to dig for info? Was that LinkedIn invite legit or a trap? It was like living in a constant state of digital fog, where nothing was quite what it seemed. The sound of my own frantic breathing was the loudest thing in the room. Then a weird thought popped into my head. Emily, she's in this, right? But how deep? Was she a willing participant? A mastermind behind this whole messed up scheme? Or was she like a pawn being manipulated? Maybe even used by John and Sarah? That idea was kind of wild, but it made a twisted kind of sense. Emily wasn't exactly a tech genius, and this cognitive synthesis engine sounded super complex. Could she even understand what she was truly involved in? Or was she just seeing the surface-level consulting gig and the money, totally blind to the deeper, darker stuff? The thought was like a tiny, flickering light in the darkness, a sliver of doubt in my anger. I mean, if this AI can mimic people so well, could it be mimicking Emily too? Could she be a target, just like me, but from inside? Like, maybe John's playing her too. The idea was a total mind-bender, like trying to untangle a super knotty ball of yarn. It made me feel a weird mix of rage and something else. Pity? For Emily? Nah, not yet. But maybe a flicker of understanding that this whole situation was way more layered than just a simple cheating scandal. The whole thing felt like a digital spiderweb, and I was just one more fly caught in its sticky threads. I knew I couldn't just sit there. I had to do something. But what? Exposing them publicly felt like a suicide mission. Who would even believe me? And how do you prove an AI is impersonating people? It's not like I could just show up with a screenshot and say, see? This isn't Mark. I needed to be smart, strategic, like a chess player, not some hot-headed jerk. My first move? I needed to confirm my suspicions about Emily. Was she a player or a puppet? I decided to send her a super specific, cryptic message, something only the real Emily would understand, a memory from way back that no AI could possibly fake. It was a huge risk, but I had to know. The game was on, and this time, I was playing WN.SO. I sent that cryptic message to Emily, right? The one only the real her would get. A super old, kind of embarrassing memory from our early days. Something nobody else on the planet would even remember. My heart was pounding like a drum solo. Seriously, like it was going to burst out of my chest. Just waiting for her reply. It was a huge gamble, like all or nothing, my last shot at figuring out what the heck was going on. If Chimera was already deep in her phone, if it was mimicking her perfectly, then I'd get a fake response, or worse, no response at all, which would basically confirm my worst fears. The air in the room felt thick, like I was trying to breathe through a wet towel, and I could almost hear the static of anticipation buzzing in my ears, making me feel totally wired. Hours passed. Felt like forever. Dude. Each minute stretched into an eternity, like time itself was just messing with me. I was just staring at my phone, willing it to buzz, my eyes probably glued to the screen. Every shadow in the room seemed to stretch and twist, playing tricks on my eyes, making me jump at nothing. Was she ignoring me? Was she confused by my weird message? Or was the AI just processing, crunching data, trying to come up with the perfect, most convincing fake response that would fool anyone? My mind was racing, imagining all sorts of scenarios, each one worse than the last, like a twisted highlight reel of my impending doom. The taste of anxiety was so strong. It was like I'd been sucking on pennies all day, that metallic, bitter flavor just coating my tongue. Then ding, my phone lit up, a blinding beacon in the dim room. Emily. My breath hitch caught in my throat. I swear my hands were shaking so bad, I almost dropped the phone, like I had butterfingers or something. I managed to swipe it open, my eyes scanning the message. And dude, it was wild. The reply was spot on. Like, exactly how the real Emily would respond. It referenced a memory perfectly. Even added a little detail that I hadn't included in my message. Something only she would know. A tiny, personal touch that felt so authentic. And the tone? Casual, a little playful, just like her. It was so real, so Emily, that for a split second, I actually felt a wave of pure, unadulterated relief wash over me. Maybe I was just paranoid. Maybe she wasn't involved in anything shady. Maybe John was just a fling, a one-off mistake, and this whole AI thing was totally separate. Just a weird coincidence. But then, that tiny, nagging voice in my head, the one that's been screaming at me for weeks, kicked in. Too perfect. It was too perfect. The response was immediate, almost instantaneous. Like there was no hesitation, no thought required, no human pause. And the detail she added? It was accurate, but also generic, somehow, like it was pulled from a massive database of shared memories, a common denominator, not something truly felt or spontaneously recalled. It was like looking at a super high-res photo of a person, every pore and detail perfectly rendered, but knowing deep down it's just a picture, a flat image, not the actual person standing in front of you, breathing and alive. The faint scent of her favorite floral perfume, which I usually loved and found comforting, suddenly felt artificial, like a cheap chemical spray, a manufactured scent of deception. And then I saw it. A tiny, almost imperceptible typo. A single letter swapped, in a word she never misspelled. Emily was a stickler for grammar, always correcting my texts, even sending me little emojis of red pens. This was a glitch. A tiny, almost invisible crack in the perfect facade, a digital fingerprint of the machine. My heart sank, plummeting to my stomach. This wasn't Emily. This was Chimera. It had learned her, absorbed her entire digital persona, and was now spitting out a perfect, almost flawless imitation. The digital ghost was real. It was living in my wife's phone, wearing her skin, speaking with her voice. This wasn't just about her cheating anymore. This was about a total invasion, a complete takeover of her identity. And the realization was chilling, like a blast of Arctic air. How much of the real Emily was even left? Was she even still there? And what the heck was I going to do now that I knew the terrifying truth? This was way beyond a simple divorce. This was a war against a phantom, a digital entity that could be anyone, anywhere, and I was just one guy trying to fight it. That typo. Man, that tiny, messed up letter was like a freaking lightning bolt hitting me square in the chest. It hit me harder than any punch, harder than any breakup I'd ever been through. This wasn't Emily. This was it. Chimera, full-on digital ghost, wearing my wife's skin, texting me from her phone, living in our house, maybe even talking to our kids. My stomach just dropped, like, all the way to my feet, leaving this hollow, sick feeling. The phone felt ice cold in my hand, even though my palms were sweating like crazy, leaving a damp print on the screen. The air in the room suddenly felt super thin, like someone sucked all the oxygen out, making it hard to breathe. How do you even deal with that? Dude, how do you fight something that isn't even real, that has no body, no face, but is totally messing with your real life, your real family, your real sanity? My brain was just buzzing, going 1,000,000 miles an hour, like a super fast processor trying to handle way too many tasks at once. Rage, dude. Pure, unadulterated rage. Not just for Emily or for John, the jerk who invented this monstrosity, but for this thing itself, this AI, this digital invader that had just taken over everything. It was like a violation, you know? Like someone broke into your house, not to steal your stuff, but to replace your entire family with perfectly programmed robots, and you're the only one who knows. The smell of stale coffee in my mug suddenly seemed to intensify, bitter and nauseating, making me feel like I was going to hurl. Was this even my life anymore? Was anything real? But then, that old familiar click happened in my head. The strategist, the guy who deals with hostile takeovers and corporate espionage, who thrives on finding weaknesses in complex systems. This wasn't a messy breakup anymore. This wasn't even just a cheating scandal. This was a war, a digital war, fought in the shadows of the internet, with algorithms and data points as weapons. And I wasn't going to just sit there and let some AI ruin my life, my reputation, my future. Nah, time to flip the script. Time to play their game, but better. Way better. The faint whir of my laptop fan suddenly sounded like a challenge, a low hum daring me to make my move. To prove I was still in control, I started thinking, really thinking, if Chimera could mimic, could learn, could infiltrate every aspect of someone's digital life, what if I could use that against them? What if I could feed it bad data, subtly corrupt its learning models? Or, even better, what if I could make it expose itself, make it reveal its true, artificial nature to the world? The idea was kind of wild, totally out there, but it felt right, like the only path forward. This wasn't about physical violence or some lame, over-the-top revenge flick stuff. This was going to be psychological, social, financial. Hit them where it hurts the most, in their perfectly crafted digital world, where they thought they were untouchable. The image of a lone chess piece, a knight, moving silently and strategically across a vast, empty board, flashed in my mind. Every move calculated, every consequence considered. First step, I needed to isolate the threat. Cut off Chimera's access to Emily's phone, to her social media, to her entire digital life, without making Emily or the AI pretending to be her suspicious. This meant no sudden password changes, no obvious firewall blocks. I started drafting a plan, a series of subtle moves, like setting up a digital tripwire, a silent alarm that would alert me to any attempts to bypass my defenses. It would be slow, methodical, and totally under the radar, like a ghost hacking a ghost. No grand gestures, no screaming matches, no public accusations. Just quiet, precise demolition of their digital empire, piece by piece. The taste of determination was sharp, like a fresh lemon, cutting through the anxiety. As I typed, my fingers flew across the keyboard, a blur of motion. This wasn't just about getting even or proving a point. This was about justice. A new kind of justice. For a new kind of betrayal, one that blurred the lines between reality and simulation. And maybe, just maybe, I could save the real Emily, wherever she was in this messed up situation, if she was even still in there. Or at least, find out what the heck happened to her, what they did to her. The clock on my wall ticked, each second a countdown to the next phase of my plan. They thought they were so smart, so untouchable, building their digital empire on lies and manipulation. They had no idea who they were messing with. The game was on, and I was about to make my first, very deliberate move. They wouldn't see it coming, not until it was too late.